live in an older neighborhood in Los Angeles, not very big. The house is 900 square feet. We have a little more land than we would if we had a larger house, but still the entire parcel is 1/12 of an acre. So it's not a lot of space, and we try to use every inch of it front and back.
And this is our humble compound. Vegetable beds, we got some fruit trees tucked in here. Arugula going to seed now. Lettuces, entirely too much fennel there. This is a variety of Italian kale that I've never seen in the market. I'm not a believer in lawns in our climate. I think they do not make sense in Los Angeles.
Yeah.
This is a
Toyon.
Hollywood,
got its
named
name
after
from the
this.
toyon.
It's like
Around
a holly
Christmas
berry.
it gets red berries, and that's why Hollywood is because of this native tree.
And then, of course, the most important plant here is the nopal, the prickly pear cactus, because this is also edible. So in the springtime it makes a pad, and in the fall it makes fruit. I make jelly out of the fruit, and the pads I use as a vegetable. So this is a solar dehydrator. It's called an Appalachian dehydrator. It was developed by a university in Appalachia. Basically it's very simple. So heat of the sun heats up a black screen that's in this sort of mirrored glassed-in box. There's a vent at the bottom here. Hot air rises up into this box where you can put trays of food. I like to use it for tomatoes and figs. There's vents at the top so you can regulate the temperature coming in and out of it. It works really well. It's very simple. Gets to about, I don't know, 120 degrees, 130, something like that in the summertime. Passive solar. Again, very simple. I don't like the goal of self-sufficiency. I think that's a fool's errand to chase that goal. I think we live in communities. Human beings are meant to live and trade and work together. So there's rainwater. Get about 50 gallons or so. I think self-reliance is okay. In other words, knowing how to do things. This is our greywater system. System's an elaborate way to say a barrel hooked up to a hose. But,
So our washing machine is right here.
right.
Eric drilled a hole in the wall, right?
Yeah.
And stuck a pipe through the hole. See how classy it is? The washing machine has a pump, and so instead of it evacuating into the sewer line where it would go normally, it evacuates into here. The barrel holds it, and then it drains out of the bottom of the barrel by virtue of gravity through this hose, which we keep here. We just drag the hose out front and water all of our fruit trees with gray water.
When I did it, it was illegal. Now it's legal under the California plumbing code to do this yourself. So this is the backyard.
We like to think of our yard as a functional place, you know, and if it's beautiful, that's nice, but mostly it's functional. Most of our plants are functional in some way. Closest to the back door, we have a lot of herbs in these beds, and herbs are so easy to grow. This is a native wild onion that I grow as a chive, because our chives kept being fussy. So the native onion never dies. It's here, it's perennial, it's here all year round. Stinging nettles, I know that most people consider them pests, but I throw them in soups and stuff for their nutritional properties. This is calendula, and I soak the petals of the flower in oil to make cosmetic products with. I wish everyone in California would have an artichoke in their yard, because they simply are like a no-care, delicious vegetable. They're weeds, and you know, each one of these things is producing maybe 30 artichokes, and it's no work.
And then the avocado tree, of course. I mean, you're in California, you have to have one of these. So you can leave the avocados on the tree, which is a cool thing. So you have about 6 months of avocados. We have 2 beehives. We're members of the Backwards Beekeepers, so we keep the hives all natural style. So I captured some feral hives. The one on the right came from a kitchen vent in the Hollywood Hills. The one on the left came from a squirrel box in Malibu. And they're just in boxes, no foundation. They're making their own comb. Compost pile. The basic process of composting, pretty simple, carbon, nitrogen. This is a little bit too much carbon actually, so a little bit too much straw, in other words. Needs a little bit more manure or green leafy matter at some point, but it's okay, it'll work.
You can see it's a very
It's starting to break
system.
down.
Our compost bins are made out of pallets that have just been hammered together, so it's free. Maybe Martha Stewart doesn't compost like this, but it's okay for us.
I like the I hate that word sustainable, the low-tech infrastructure here to be sort of invisible. Let's go in the coop. I like it to look like a normal house. And
Well, I would like it to be a normal house,
Yeah.
for the most part.
though when the house was built in 1920, I think a lot of things that we have were normative. Like
Yeah.
people had chickens. My mom grew up here, so she can remember during the Depression that people had chickens. They had roosters. People had bees too.
People had backyard gardens, not just during wartime,
Exactly.
but before. It was pretty typical to have a little plot in your backyard.
So the
This is their
sleeping
house?
area is in here, and it needs to be cleaned out right now.
Oh,
but
look at this. So that's so they sleep on this branch. If we close this,
under the coop
This
is where
is-
the food is.
the chickens like to be outside. So chicken house is just a dark space, a cube where they sleep, basically. When the sun sets, they just all walk up the ladder like little soldiers and go straight to bed.
I don't think there's actually anything unusual about
No, well,
that.
it's just that we've been through an anomaly. I mean, I think for all of human history, people have kept small stock, grown a little bit of food, even in cities all around the world for all time, essentially, and just since World War II. Here in America, from World War II to now, we've had just like a little period of forgetfulness where we forgot to be. I know we just sort of forgot our common sense and just thought we just could buy everything off the shelf and use and never give back to the soil and have no contact with other creatures, or the earth. Here, this is just like you just go down a couple inches and you've got this like really nice soil. We practice a method of chicken keeping called deep bedding, and it's a really great way to raise chickens. If you raise chickens on bare dirt or worse, concrete, it's going to be a smelly mess really fast, and you're going to have to be out there with a rake and a shovel cleaning it all the time. What we do is put down like 6 to 12 inches of straw on the ground, and we just leave it there. As they poo and eat, all their waste gets mixed into the straw, and they scratch and work at it. And basically what they've made here on the floor of the coop is a living compost pile. So it doesn't smell, it doesn't attract flies, and best of all, we don't have to be out here shoveling, so we never clean it. So actually this chicken coop is even working for us. This chicken coop is making soil for us. And it's saving us work, because there's nothing worse than cleaning up after creatures. You shouldn't ever do anything just because you think you should do it, or you have to keep chickens. You just want to do what calls you.
One of the things we really believe in is having a bunch of fruit trees and keeping them pruned small, so no higher than you can reach. This is a young peach tree. It's very pretty. So, it's in a way, it's like I don't know why people would not have fruit trees. It really is a lovely, simple thing, and you get fruit for, hardly any work.
A worm bin is another way to deal with your kitchen waste if you don't want to do an official compost bin. And for many people, I think a worm bin is a better bet. It's like, say, you don't have a yard, then your kitchen stuff can easily be absorbed by a worm bin. See, there they are. What I do, I'll have a more active bin here, and you can see how this still looks like a lot of discrete items. Over here, I have a bin that's getting closer to being finished, and they break it down into worm castings, which is a polite way of saying worm poo. And this is some that I just harvested. And this is, like, people call this black gold. This is a soil tonic. Plants love worm castings. They're not fertilizer per se, and they're not compost per se. They're something unique. You know, maybe you're not into gardening. You have two black thumbs. You don't want to do it. There's no need to do it. You could practice self-reliance in so many other ways.
There's a rocket stove here, so it's a 5-gallon metal bucket with clay and vermiculite as an insulation layer in here, and then a L-shaped tube, so you can put little sticks in here, burn them. It's like having a little oven burner, actually. It works really well, very efficient. We've used it when we remodeled our kitchen, actually. You can fry eggs, you can cook anything on that. Boil water.
It's another good emergency device to have around. A lot of the devices that are good for self-reliance are also good for camping or off-grid living or emergencies. They're multifunctional.
So this is a humanure potty. It's a milk crate with legs turned upside down, hole cut in it to fit a 5-gallon bucket with a lovely toilet seat attached to it. All you do is put some carbon material like pine shavings
or crushed up leaves.
Do your business, cover that, do your business, cover that, et cetera, making kind of a pool lasagna. Then you take that and you compost it. The reason we're having this is one, for emergency purposes. If we have an earthquake here and the sewer lines go out. It's not something we use regularly, but we have built compost with this. So why throw out a perfectly good resource? Why mix water and human waste and make trash? So this is something I'm really enthusiastic about, adobe bricks. They're what things used to be built out of here in California.
This oven is made out of clay harvested from our backyard.
And these bricks were just made by mixing sand and clay from the backyard. Sand's the only thing I had to buy, in forms with a little bit of straw.
You just start with one thing that really calls you, and usually in the course of learning how to do that one thing, you will be attracted to something that's related to it, because these things tend to pile on top of each other. They're all linked in some way.
There we go.
Here's some sauerkraut.
Sauerkraut.
And, oh.
I believe them. I'm making sauerkraut, lacto fermentation. There's some pickled prickly pear. Say that 10 times fast right there. And then this is, well, oh yes, I made that. I forgot about that. Some cucumber pickles, some canned fruits. And various jams and jellies. I do a little bit of canning, but I'm more into the lacto fermentation and the drying there, and then just freezing food for use later. We squeezed this little set of cabinets in here. So there's not a lot of space in this house.
We just had one cabinet in which food could go, and we had a lot more food than fit in there. So we just decided that this little corridor was an unused space. So we were able to put planking in here as shelves. And then we put on bungee cord, which will hopefully keep most things from falling out during the earthquake. All of these are all bulk bin foods. Bulk bin is a great way to buy food.
I like to do bread too, so
We have a bit of a bread problem, because this is what happens when you're married to one of the co-founders of the Los Angeles Bread Bakers Club.
There's a lot of bulk flour. We are growing and importing older forms of wheat.
Rejected it.
Okay, so we're helping a farmer who's growing quite a few acres right now of Sonora wheat and a couple other wheats. Sonora wheat is the wheat the Spanish brought here hundreds of years ago. There are many people that think that those forms of wheat have fewer allergenic properties in them. Their genetics is a lot older. That may be part of the problem with wheats or the breeding of modern wheat strains. This is a theory right now, hasn't been proven. Here's the starter, by the way. So this is a natural starter, sourdough starter, some people would call it.
Or people might call it a mother.
Or a levain. It is, you mix flour and water together, and you feed it flour and water every day, and you end up with a living thing. So the yeast that's on the flour comes alive, and then you can bake with this. So
instead of yeast.
Instead of commercial yeast. Tastes better, and some people say it's healthier for you because it's, in effect, pre-digesting some of the gluten and things like that in the flour.
So this is called a no-knead bread because you don't need it.
Even this really simple is 10 times better than a store-bought loaf. This is one of the least labor-intensive things in the household, is bread making. But also you are actually saving money. Buying the flour in bulk, we're getting that really nice central milling flour for less than the price of crappy supermarket flour. So this is literally pennies for something that costs a few bucks. That's another reason we try to be frugal around here.
Just because we don't make a lot of money.
I don't like working for other people, I gotta say it. So I like being our own boss. And so writing 2 books and writing magazine articles and
teaching classes.
We balance a few things that have managed to make it work.
Scrape by.
All right.
A lot of it has to do with, I think, our overdriving ambition to be free makes being cheap fun because it means you can be free. You know, we bought this house a long time ago.
One car rather
We have
than
one
two
car
cars,
rather than two.
And Los Angeles is infamous for being very car-centric, and it still is to a great deal. However, the bones of a walkable neighborhood are restorable in this neighborhood.
We have one cell phone, and it's a track phone.
One of my favorite things is the Western Electric 500. This phone kind of epitomizes the kind of low-tech approach that I really am interested in. This thing is made to be repaired. It used to be owned by the phone company. So the whole thing is easily disassembled. All the parts are labeled inside. I was able to repair this just by looking up schematics online. There's dates actually from when it was last repaired by the phone company. They're in 10 of 1971. Getting rid of TV is the best thing we ever did because suddenly evenings were filled with other activities. So we made the dough and we're going to toss it into the cast iron pot. Dealing with it.
People ask us this question a lot. You know, they'll say, I don't have time to do this. How do you have time to do this? The bread doesn't take any time at all to do, especially this recipe, so it's just a matter of a little bit of pre-thinking. Like Erik mixed up the dough. It took all of 2 minutes to mix up the dough last night, but it does need to sit overnight. That's the time constraint, is just the waiting. But 5 minutes for it to come together. A little bit earlier this morning, he shaped it into a ball, which takes a minute, and then let it rest in the ball shape for just an hour or so. And then it goes in the oven.
Score marks.
So all told, like total labor in making this loaf of bread is 15 minutes to be generous.
Not even that.
Maybe 10 minutes?
No, yeah, exactly. There we go.
I'm making a big, huge pot of beans, and I make beans quite frequently. Like I try to do it once a week. So it's a really easy process. You just soak your beans overnight. The hardest part is remembering to soak them. I make plain beans to supplement our meals throughout the week because we work out of the home and we don't eat out a lot. So we have to come up with 3 meals a day every day, and that can get a little tedious. And I've worked out the system where I sort of consider my bean cooking water stock. I choose to treat it like a stock pot, so I just throw in big chunks of things. So this doesn't take very long to do. The decline and death of home ec is one of the great stories of America. And I think there was a time perhaps when home ec was actually really useful. And by the time I was in school taking home ec, it was more like, how do you make a cake out of a box mix? I'm going to throw in some cumin seed too.
Some of it shifted in the 70s, in my understanding. It shifted from how to make things to how to buy things.
How to be a good
find
consumer,
the right
basically.
Refrigerator and
Yeah,
how to
comparison
balance a
shopping
checkbook and things like that.
For most of our cleaning, we use just a few things. This is 50-50 vinegar and water, and it's fine for almost all wipe down purposes, unless they're really greasy. That's what the soap is for. This is hydrogen peroxide with a spray nozzle on it. And this is a really easy bleach, so like a sink bleach. I also keep a sugar shaker full of baking soda. So I scrub with baking soda. And I don't believe in using all those like eco products because why are they so expensive? Like, these things cost pennies. They work fine. End of story. We think what we do is home economics. The new radical home economics, meaning like back to the root home economics, which makes the house an engine of production as opposed to being an engine of consumption.